the 1st century, but likely to about 44 AD and beyond. I think there was a street here at the time of Jesus. I think it was a shopping street. In the openings left and to the right and to the left, you have remnants of shopping. You see that the stores that are against the wall on this side were burned, so they were damaged. We talked about the burning of the stone. There's some evidence of that going on. And to the right. So this is a shopping street. This is a shopping street. The archaeologists have determined that you are not looking at pavers that dated all the way to the time of Jesus because they aren't worn enough. This is, it looks new almost. It's too good a shape to date to the Herodian renovation process, which would have started in 20 BC. So they assume 44 AD, and remember the temple complex destroyed in 70 AD. So we likely had this, experiencing that destruction, but not the footsteps of Jesus. This street would have continued north, right? So we have the Western Wall Plaza. They've actually talked about taking the Western Wall Plaza and putting it up on pillars so that they could excavate under it and see what's underneath it. So, but this street continues. I'm going to go all the way to the north side of the Temple Mount. The structure here, you've got great big blocks of stone here with openings in it. This is page 89. We have a large elevated staircase that comes out and then goes south. What you're seeing there is the spring of the arch. We saw that from before, and then the base of the stairs. So highlighted on this drawing, that's where the spring of the arch is. That's just the very top of that arch that you're seeing. Otherwise, the staircase itself, you're just seeing the foundation piece here. That staircase served those who were going up to the royal stoa, because it goes right into the area of the royal stoa itself. It's a great place, particularly on that corner, to see the immense size of these stones. The blocks of stone that you're looking at here weigh tons. And look at the decoration. These lower courses here are authentic to Herod's renovation. Those that is how you are decorating your foundation stones. I think of my cement block basement walls. They have no beauty to them, and these are functioning in much the same way, but look at the energy and effort that went in. It's all dry laid. So there's no mortar in between those joints. So incredible precision in the cutting, incredible precision in the placement of those. And like I said, to get a sense of how large they are, when you go off that corner down there, you can see the three dimensions. The rubble that you're seeing here, it looks like it should be removed. It never will be. These are elements of the buildings and of the balustrade, which is the perimeter barrier that was part of the 1st century temple of Mona. The Romans said, you're going to revolt against us, we'll take away your identity by destroying your temple, your major public building, and these stones are part of the infrastructure from above. Are any of them part of the original temple structure itself? I can't tell you that for sure, but you see the signal that Rome was sending to the locals. And I often, as I recall that story, imagine what the sound would have been as those elements that were part of that precious structure, which had such a core connection to your value and understanding of who the Lord was, to see those levered over the edge here. This is a powerful, powerful statement. There's one of these stones that has a distinctive shape to it. It's going to be just as we have come down the stairs. You'll see it. It's shaped on the top, beveled, so that it looks like these stones here. So that it looks like these stones here, where the guy is standing next to them. And what's so striking about the original, what we have here is a replica. is an inscription that was on the top part of that stone. When I say balustrade, is that word helpful or not helpful? Balustrade is like the fence that prevents you from walking accidentally off the edge. There was an inscription up there on a part of that balustrade. And again, that's the shape of the stone that you'll see. Here's the inscription. And it says in Hebrew, to the place of trumpeting. It says what? To the place of trumpeting. So it's the signaling spot where the shofar was sounded to announce the beginning and end of Shabbat, Sabbath, and also to announce change in the rotation of the priestly staff serving at the temple. So you can imagine, well, you heard the muezzin, the call to prayer. Imagine that sound, how it would have played live off of that, because we need to put that at the very top of this structure, 100 plus feet above us, 100 plus feet above us. Where that piece would have. What's interesting to me about that piece, and this is one of the elements in Scripture, John 13:38 and 18:27, Jesus warns Peter, right? That Thursday evening before his arrest, watch and pray that you don't enter into temptation. Peter says, I got this. No, I got this. You don't have to worry about me. I'll die before, And Jesus said, be careful. Before the rooster crows, cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Most Western Christians hear that and think animal. In the Jewish traditional writings, in the Mishnah, we have several times this mentioned that the sounding of the ram's horn at the appropriate schedule is called cock's crow. So it's possible that Jesus was not saying, Peter, well, I'll say it's possible that he's saying to Peter, when the next time you hear a rooster, physical bird crowing, you'll have denied me 3 times. Random. It's a random thing. Roosters are crowing all the time, right? Or is he saying, the next time you hear the signal sounded of the shofar, cock's crow, now you know a precise time, and suddenly that changes the character of that business. Yeah. And I lean a little bit in that latter direction, thinking that may be what he was saying. One other piece of scripture that plays here is Matthew chapter 4, 5 through 7. Jesus has finished tempting. The devil has tempted Jesus in the wilderness, and then it says he brings him to the high point of the temple. And I think there, the word hieron in Greek, you're able to see it as not just the physical core, but the temple complex. So he brings him into this space. And what's so striking about that is the boldness of the move. Because he's bringing Jesus from the isolation of the wilderness into the very place where his Father says, I make my presence known in a special way. So we go right into the house of the Father in order to execute this temptation. And the temptation itself seeks to divide between Jesus and the Father. Satan says to him, look, you want a kingdom? I'll give you one. All right? All you have to do is bow down and worship me. So worship, temple, language. Just worship me. We're good. You can have the kingdom as long as I can be king and you can be prime minister. This better plan than Dad's got, which is going to the cross. So he's trying to create uncertainty here, and he says, "Why don't you, Jesus, just step off that edge?" And what you need to realize is where you're stepping off the edge. This is a street full of shoppers. And he says, Jesus, if you just step off that edge and float down, because the angels are going to catch you. He quotes Psalm 92, the angels will catch you and gently lower you. You won't have to worry about going to the cross. You got kingship in a whole different way, right? You have to appreciate that there's some appeal to that. You talk about an entry. You talk about a political statement about who you are and what you could be. You float down off of that high point into this space, and you have got folks' attention. Jesus, of course, turns away from that. He will have nothing to do with, leadership, kingship, without some sort of cross. and he turns away from it. But I think a couple of things there, just the audacity of that move to bring Jesus from the isolation of the wilderness into the presence of the Father and say, okay, how about this? How about you show you got some gumption of your own, that you're not just one of Dad's kids, that you can figure out your own way to get this, this kingdom stuff done. Again, I'm trying to appreciate how the story fits the place, and that second temptation is the place. Yeah.
This reminds me of the Lord's statement that not one stone will be left standing.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Jesus goes up on the Mount of Olives, and the disciples are marveling at the structures and say,